Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 7 o'clock. I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. I assume attendance is taken. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to open the floor to comments from citizens. Hearing none, I'll close that portion. Moving on to public safety. City prosecutor.
No report and no court.
Okay.
Would have come in the middle of the holiday, so the judges elsewhere.
Okay. So no court this week. Moving on to the police department. Information's in your packet for the activity report.
Quick to hand out busy month. Again? Yes, sir.
Aren't the crooks supposed to stay indoors when it gets cold like this?
Not around Christmas time.
Correct. Tis the season. Sometimes our water pipes freeze up.
Mine did Sunday.
Ouch. I know.
Any questions or comments on the activity report? Moving on to the permanent speed limit change for Remington Drive.
Well, the question arises whether you want to have an ordinance prepared to make that statutory 15 mile an hour. Right now, it's an experimental speed limit.
Sure.
So have there been any results, positive, negative, or citizen reaction that we
I
should
got a lot
take
of
action?
nice compliments from folks that live out there. Just, it seemed to resonate.
So you would recommend making the change permanent?
I would. I would. I appreciate y'all doing that. I do appreciate that.
Is it, just for my information, does it make a difference when it comes to enforcement, if, whether it's a permanent or a temporary sign?
I think the temporary is only because he's the traffic manager, director, whatever the
Traffic engineer.
engineer.
Yeah.
So it's a temporary change unless we make it a permanent one. So it would have to go back at some point.
I think probably it would stand up for a while, but if it was there a year from now without an ordinance to back it up, somebody with willing to pay an attorney could probably get it overturned just because there isn't statutory backing. So
It cleans it up, folks. I mean, just cleans it up.
Unless there's other comments from the board, I think we should go ahead and draft up an ordinance.
see if I can get it prepared for next Monday. If not, it'll be on the January.
Okay.
Thank you all very
Thank you.
much.
Any other for the police department? Chief, did you have any comments?
Just one. Seems like all I did today was throw purchase orders in the Donna's box. I don't like it any more than anybody else does. I would have depended on what day you asked me, what minute of the day you asked me. I still don't know. I did a intake manifold in that old car in that car the one Allison drives, got 150,000 miles on it, was just begging for it. We were hard down. You'll get to see that on the bills over. It's about $1,100 by the time I was done with it. Just the question becomes though, you know, it's no different for me than it is for you all. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna just junk it, park it in Lynn's driveway, or fix it and drive it? It's just, so hopefully I get, the car's still in relatively good shape. It's got 150,000 miles and it's a police car. It's not a Bentley like most of them I had. conservative as you try to be, sometimes things happen. We've done a lot of good work. I'm really proud of my crew. It's no different from me than it is for any of you all around the house. What are you gonna do? So,
When that,
heavy on my mind, so.
those repairs come out of a different budget.
They come out of the internal service fund. We're putting aside so much per mile driven
Right.
that pays for the insurance on the vehicles, gas and oil, and for repairs. And that fund's healthy.
Okay.
I mean, that fund is not for replacement of vehicles,
Right,
but
right.
basically for just about everything else.
Okay.
Historically, has that vehicle had a lot of repairs already, like a new transmission already?
No, no. No,
That's the oldest one in the fleet, isn't it, Chief?
that was one of the very first two that I bought when
Yeah.
I came here. And we've been begging along,
Mm-hmm.
but I drove this afternoon after I got it out, and
Okay.
it's fine. And, I mean, let's be real. Allison's not gonna rob that car. If money fell out of the tree tonight to replace a police car, last week I'd have told you, I'm getting rid of the car, Allison's what cost me money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's cost me money,
Let's use it a little bit.
and, yeah,
Okay.
so I probably would not replace that car.
Mm-hmm.
Transmission goes out tomorrow, what are you gonna do?
Right.
It just never stops.
Okay.
I'm not complaining, it's just the way it is.
As usual, I've talked to the other departments about their fleet. Needs. I haven't talked to the chief yet. You should probably mentally inventory what you have and which ones are the worst that would need replacement. And as long as you don't have something that needs replacement before April 1,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see, the budget usually allows for one or two police
One,
cars
yes.
to be, one brand new one or two of those half mileage highway patrol cars.
Yeah. If I come to you and say, want to buy a new car, it's probably time for a new Chief, because I've had a stroke. I'm not doing that.
Duly noted.
I'm not doing that, yeah.
How much do we put in cars? I mean, before we say we're not putting no more into them. I mean,
Originally, when we set up a replacement schedule, the average mileage implied that we should replace a car every 5 years. So if we, at the time we had 5 cars and we were just replacing one every 5th year, that put them well over 100,000.
in repairs,
No, 100,000 miles.
that's what I'm talking about, repair money. You know,
I
we
don't-
just put, so, you know, if something else goes wrong with this car, are we gonna, I mean, do we have a stopping point, money-wise of how much we're gonna put into?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
Judgment of the department.
I wrestle with that question every time. Every time. A recent, I've even wrestled with, I'm telling you right now, if I had a place to put a car, let's just say the motor blew up in Allison's car, motor. Well, there's transmission, doors, fenders, right?
Uh-huh.
If I had a place to put it, besides Lynn's driveway, I'm sure his wife wouldn't tolerate her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, you know how we buy a car or two from patrol and then we sell one or two, maybe, you know, locally for, buy a place to put it, I wouldn't do it.
Just save it for parts.
Parts.
Yeah.
Yep. I've been pondering that more so than, but that's always the question.
Yeah,
All right.
Now we gotta make sure we get the same kind of car every time.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's,
those Crown Vics are, there's plenty of Crown Vics down there, it's gonna take this cat right on out of it, be somebody else.
when the highway patrol is buying new ones, are they buying Chevys now or
No, God.
Dodges.
They
Dodges?
buy everything.
But there's a lot of Crown Vics down there, and, you know, we've had that conversation before. The year thing really doesn't bother me much. I try to buy miles, 55,000 miles.
Yeah.
So, I didn't mean to take up much time doing that. I tried to do my very level best to stay off that over 712. But sometimes things happen. And if tomorrow, the car that we just put the water, or the intake in, if the transmission go out of it tomorrow, that would depend on what minute you call me. What are you gonna do with it? I don't know yet.
Give me
Do
5
you get a
minutes.
rebuild transmission for it? Do you? The fun never stops.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crystal
I-
ball, it'd make it a lot easier.
It just never stops. But now that we have that, I'm gonna run it for a while.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but I didn't know, you know, if something else goes out in the transmission, it's $3,200. Do we put that 3,200 into, I mean, do we have a stopping point, is what I was getting at.
It's
Does
something
not
that's
have
discretionary.
an absolute policy. Each department head knows basically how often it's been in the shop, if at all, and how well each piece of equipment or vehicle is running. And the threshold for repairs on a series of used highway patrol vehicles that we bought at $14,000, $15,000, probably you would look at differently than you would a new pickup or a new backhoe or whatever, because the repairs would be substantially higher percentage of replacement costs. Highway patrol cars haven't gotten appreciably more expensive over the last few years.
No, those Crown Vics, I'll be able to buy them. I think we will be able to look at those reasonable next 3 or 4 years, at least. I think so.
Well,
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I didn't mean to
Moving on to the fire department. Oh, sir.
One other that caught my eye in the Wall Street Journal, you know that kind of long whippy thing they have down in front of the super store? Well, some people in Napa are trying those things to keep the birds away from their vineyards with some success. And since almost nothing else we do in the northeast part of town seems to have a lot of permanent success, I talked to Larry, and these may be something we want to look at, because you can get one of those, and if
What's the
somebody,
technical term for this?
there is no technical term.
I think you were being
What's
bad.
Inflatable tube mint. What the story.
Tuberman, okay.
Is that like what Pringers have got down there?
Yes.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
little whippy.
Exactly.
Well, tall.
It's a blow-up scarecrow.
Exactly, and it's something that is slightly random, so that it appears more lifelike than something that cycles constantly the same. And it is tall and noticeable. And according to the article, at least one vendor selling them for $325. So it may be something that we put in the budget as an experiment. All we gotta do is find somebody with a backyard where this thing isn't likely to get tangled in the power lines, and
It collects in, I assume, and there's some.
Yeah.
sort of
There's a fan
air.
on it, fan at the bottom.
Rogers Runway, you guys can put a logo on it for us.
Yeah, I mean, could we ask Pringers if we could borrow theirs instead of buying one?
Just we're gonna stay away from the conversation.
I suppose until we know whether they work or not, it might be worthwhile just running one. But it seemed, just
Would the,
off the wall sort of solution that might work.
Well, has anyone noticed lots of birds at Pringers?
No.
Yeah, yeah, if you go right down the street from Pringers, there's all kinds of birds there.
It's not near that whole thing though, right?
Yeah, near the anti-bird device.
Well, then everybody's got to get one for their yard.
No, I was thinking maybe one block might work.
It needs to be mobile then.
Yeah, they're pretty small. I mean, the base of them is
It-
pretty
it-
small.
As I understand,
Put it on the golf cart, just drive
well, manpower gets really expensive. We would like to find somebody with a power cord that wouldn't mind it being plugged in and so that they don't make too much noise. As I understand it, if you can get them when they're just starting to look for roosting areas, that's when you have the most effect.
All this is in the article?
No.
Oh.
No, this is stuff we got, or talking to the Department of Wildlife and all those, you know. So, once they get situated in a particular place they come back to each night, it's much more difficult to move them along. On the other hand, if you move them from one block, you may just be pushing the problem on somebody else, so. At the moment, they look for the places with the greatest number of really tall trees, and that seems to be Larry's neighborhood. So, I just,
Exactly. Hmm.
something we could look at, maybe coupled with all the other little things there.
Would you like to approach Pringers and see if
Well, I'd rather approach them and ask them if we could borrow it instead of spend $300 and it don't work. Then what are we gonna do with it?
So,
Put it out here for the anchor fence? Put it out here for the anchor fence?
Sell it to the chamber. Maybe they can use it for their, drop anchor fence.
Or go and rent one?
I'd probably,
sell it to Rogers Rental for them to rent out.
There you go. You all buy one and go rent it and see if it works.
I gotta talk to the boss, man.
I hesitate to think what the rental might be.
All for.
I like John's answer.
Which was?
I thought, why don't we put a bounty on starlings and
Don't
just
start
open
it.
season and then,
would we license people for this?
Outside
I
the,
just-
outside the city limits, and who picks up the carcasses?
if they want their money, they deliver the carcasses,
Yes,
okay?
and put them on a counter up here so they can count them.
We can count them, and we can have like a season whenever they start landing, and it can be announced in the paper. See, James gets an ad in the paper. And we have a week-long bounty and open season on starling. It'd be like a civic project.
Wow.
If Olean could have the festival down there. We could have a starling shoot. Uh-oh. That's not politically correct. I'm sorry, HSUS people.
You
I'll
start
be
in
quiet.
August. Start it in August.
I'll be moving on to the fire department.
Should I be sorry I brought this up?
He's like, I'm moving on to the fire department. The activity reports in your packet. Any questions or comments?
The chief sends his regrets, but he's required to keep working tonight at the lumberyard, so.
That's an excuse.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'll be
I didn't see his truck down there.
I guarantee you wasn't.
I think we all ought to go down and see him.
Any questions? Any other fire department line?
Not that aware.
Okay. Moving on to emergency management.
Um, I have nothing to report on that.
Protective inspection.
The final house demolition under the incentive program is complete and signed off on. that being the one that Crump and Donaldson et al. Had right north of where Sammy's Smoke Shop used to be. And we have one additional building permit issued over in Cobblestone Lake, so we're now up to 21 units for the year, which is great. And that's probably just about it.
Moving on to general government and finance, economic development, the credit report. The report's in your packet.
That was the main reason I came tonight. I'm sure I don't know if you guys know, basically to inform you that the business, I guess, prospect we have within Judy Worldwide is no longer in, they're canceling Centralia off their site selection for the first phase. Would like to thank all you guys for your hard work and your ability to act quick. It was at no fault of, I don't believe, Credit or the city. It was just couldn't reach an agreement with the landowners. So, now that we're just, as far as my first month as director, I'm working on networking with other organizations such as Ready and Mexico Chamber. I've joined a Work Ready steering committee for Boone County, which is basically an initiative focused on strengthening the workforce in Boone County. And then I've also joined a subcommittee to focus on a certain demographic there, and I'll be able to elaborate more on that after I learn more. And I guess for this upcoming year, we're going to be able, by January, I'll be able to show you guys a budget for us for the 2014. And we're working on our State of the City fundraising event. We're just getting into the planning process of all that. But my main reason for being here tonight was to inform you guys of the Judy Worldwide. So we'd like to thank you guys again for all your work. That's it.
Do they have a date picked out for that event?
We have not a specific date now.
Okay.
We have a few days we're looking at, and I believe by the beginning of the year, I'll be able to give you one.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Anything else for credit? Great, thank you. Moving on to the park board.
We have minutes and agenda.
Any questions or comments? Moving on to the cemetery board.
Don't believe they have met, so there's no formal report. I think that Mr. Robertson and Phyllis are finalizing all the survey and incorporating it, or working to incorporate it into the GIS database. So we'll soon be able to open up that final section of the city cemetery. And given that we're down to 20 to 30 spaces left in the northwest, sooner is better.
Tree board, I assume. No.
Nothing?
Okay. Library board, there's a board meeting information in your packet. Agenda.
For the library board, they're still looking for a new board member to replace the gentleman that resigned because he moved out of town. So if y'all hear of anybody that's interested in serving on the library board, if you have them, give me a call, I appreciate it.
Moving on to the November financial statements.
Should be in your packet.
Any questions or comments?
Believe there was anything unusual to be held out, the typical one, or things that you already knew about.
Sure.
starting this month, we should start getting property taxes. New property taxes rather than delinquent taxes, and see how that's going.
In the last page in your packet, bills over $1,250. Sounds like we have a few that didn't make this report, but is that correct, Len?
That's correct, right? At the end of the day, I was completing the allocation of the liability and vehicle insurance premiums. That's about $41,000, and that will be a check that will also be on the Monday list.
Okay. Any questions on bills over $1,250? Hearing none, moving on to other general government, employee health insurance.
Let me catch up with my notes here.
Okay.
This was something that has worried me considerably, and I wasn't sure what our choices were going to be. Ultimately, we had the rates being quoted by Coventry, United Healthcare, and Anthem. And ultimately, for small groups, they included all of the usual doctors and clinics and hospitals in the area that our employees use, so there wasn't any reason to exclude anybody on that score. All of the rates quoted are compliant with ACA, of course. The primary effect of that is that nobody locally offered POS insurance that we normally have gotten, that everything being offered is PPO, preferred provider, which means that there are some doctors in network and some out of network, and you are steered towards the in-network because that's what they've negotiated lower rates with. Given that everybody's participating in network for all three, that's not really a big issue, but one could consider it to be a diminishment in coverage under circumstances. The effect really isn't noticeable. I took a look at the coverages. Coventry seemed too high across the board to be viable. There were 4 possibilities quoted by Anthem, another 9 quoted by United Healthcare. I showed them, without referring to what the possible expense would be, I showed them to the members of the union, and also through Larry, 2 members of the police department. They're all pretty close, and the upshot of the feedback I got was that the employees pretty much across the board were happy to stay with Anthem, even though it's a PPO system, at the level of deductibles that's closest to what we have now. There are some plans that offer lower deductibles but higher co-insurances and higher co-pays for drugs, and it's one of those things where probably picking the best plan ultimately comes down to an employee by employee basis, depending on what their family health situation is. But they're all pretty close, and there's probably less administrative work to deal with to stay with the plan we have that is as close as ACA allows for what we have now. And the nice thing about that is it's 11% less than what we're paying now. So,
Didn't see that coming.
I was gonna say.
yeah, long lead up and you thought I was gonna drop the ball. I would recommend we go along with what the employees have indicated they would be satisfied with. Take 11% and run, that will give us some flexibility in dealing with the employee union and the issues coming in the next budget.
Sure.
It's pretty good savings. And we're satisfied with the coverage we have now. There's not any point in making a switch if we're gonna have that kind of savings. And anything else, as I say, some of the rates are up or down from what this one is, but it's also a pick 'em about whether it's a better plan or not. It's comparing, not apples and oranges, but it's comparing Jonathan's to Golden Delicious to Granny Smith apples. It's a matter of personal taste, and nobody felt strongly enough about anything other than they're comfortable with the deductibles and co-pays that they have now.
Good.
So, that being said, to have coverage January 1, they really need to hear from us by the 15th. Next board meeting is the 16th. So, does anybody have concern, objection with my going over to the insurer and saying, we recommend that we stay with what we have under the ACA rules and take a reduced premium? That's just for healthcare. The dental stays the same. There's a life insurance component that stays the same. So,
I don't have any problem with it. Does anyone else have any issues? You know? Say you've got your marching orders.
thank you. Makes budgeting so much friendlier.
I agree.
Thank you all very much, that's important for my folks. I appreciate Lynn's work on that, that's important.
Anything else for health insurance?
No, it was so much less painful than I
Like,
thought it
yes,
was going to be,
Exactly.
even last week.
That wasn't much of a shoe dropping.
No.
Moving on to other advertisements and ordinance to set April board election.
There will be on the next agenda, as prepared by Heather, the typical December ordinance that calls for April elections and sets up the advertising for all the vacant positions for the board. I don't think the mayor or collector comes up this time, so it's just board members. That's
Why you gotta pick on this then?
That's the side, it's your turn.
So it's everybody over there.
Yes.
It's, the language doesn't change a whole lot from year to year, but it is required to
Sure,
have
it's
an
formality.
It
ordinance.
does, just, where's the time go?
Let's extend it to 40
Do what?
Jim said extending it to 4 years.
Do what?
Well, moving on. As we rise. You don't have anything? The very next thing is going into city administrator succession planning.
At the last meeting, I presented some drafts of an ad, an extension of that ad for people, for when it's placed on the web, and we can link a much longer text with background about the city, and a page of expectations. Those are just purely a first draft. So the question is, do you have points that you would like dropped or emphasized in these? And can you give me some direction in particular on a final decision on what kind of minimum education requirements you might want to advertise for, how many years of experience, how many references you would like for the initial resume, points of skill levels that you want emphasized or de-emphasized compared to the draft. And salary. So we set an indicator with an upper salary level. Or this matter of salary totally. I mean, basically, these are things that you gotta tell me what's.
Right, I think leave the salary off and put that it will be commensurate with experience.
Commensurate with education.
Education experience, yeah.
Well, I thought about it, I thought the bachelor's degree would be encouraged, but I would hate to exclude somebody with 15 years of experience that,
Yeah.
I don't know how to word that, but,
You could say of the particular degree that's required, or X many years of experience in lieu of the degree, basically.
Well, I would like to see a master of planning, but I think that the experience can be substituted for a degree.
I'm not sure they give a master's.
Well,
in planning.
whatever it is.
Public
Public
administration.
administration,
public
that's what I
affairs.
meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because those are the people who are trained for it. That doesn't mean that there aren't other people who come up through the ranks who aren't qualified.
Sure.
So, there can be experience substituted for education. I'm not sure that I want to even go so far as to say we won't accept anybody with anything less than a BA, because there are people that do come up through the ranks who are qualified.
Say bachelor's and or master's desired, but.
Experience may be substituted,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you have a minimum level of experience? Like a 10-year, 15-year?
Well, if you require a master's, then 1 or 2 years as an
Well,
assistant or something might be.
it's something in lieu of.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I can say that because there are people who work at a job and they get 1 year of experience 10 years in a row. There are other people that get a couple of years' experience and are very qualified. So if they have 1 year of experience 10 times, I'm not overly enthused with them.
Contiguous.
I would say you're gonna be able to sort a lot of this out with the resume, aren't you? You aren't gonna get 300, are you? I mean,
I suspect if this is worded properly and we get 30, we will be doing okay.
I would say that that's not too many to read, let them sort it out with their writing skills, you know what I mean?
Well, that was, some of the headhunters typically request a writing sample. It's not been my experience that it's very common for a city council to do. And I would suggest that while you may want to see writing samples, you might want to wait until you're looking at a reduced battery of 6, 7 people to pick your final.
But I guess what I'm saying is, those resumes can be pretty creative,
Oh, sure.
and you can sort through a lot of
Glean
that.
a lot from a resume.
Yes.
Well, and the language I used here, job history with salary history, because typically the way the world is now is not to give a salary history unless it's asked for. You want 2, 3, 4, 5 job references?
I suspect 3 is
I would assume 3.
Three normal, isn't it? I mean,
3 minimum, 5 maximum.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
3, if they
Three
wanna put more in, that's fine, but I mean, I
Yeah.
think that minimum, they have 3 references.
Professional references.
Yes.
Work related.
Yes,
Work-related.
as opposed to personal references.
Right. Which, when, for like street equipment operator, we ask for references and almost always it's
They're
second cousins.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They figure you're gonna check their past employers anyway, so it's more character references.
My only question on that would be, what about somebody who is just out of school with a couple of years' experience, only worked for one place?
I'd see how creative he was on his resume.
Well, what other kind of jobs did he have while he was going through school?
Yeah, but they're not professional references.
Yeah, but you could get the teachers
Well, yes,
references.
there are,
You could get
there,
your-
there are other ways of
you know,
getting
for-
references,
yeah.
yes.
Right.
You could get your
And-
professor's references.
Besides professors, almost anybody getting a master's in public administration or public affairs is nowadays doing an internship. They will have at least 1 or maybe 2 references through those sorts of.
I think 3 is fine.
I think 3 is fine.
Yeah, 3's fine.
Okay. If I get this in before the end of the month, then we set March 3rd as a deadline. That's 2 months in my mind. Is that sufficient for
March
people?
3rd? I think so.
I think so too.
Okay. Did anybody have, I intend to flesh out the community background even more, but you have things that I didn't pick up on that you particularly want to emphasize as to why this might be a good place for somebody with lots of skills and experience to come, even though it's not real large? We're selling the community as well as trying to hire an
Yes.
administrator.
Right.
Nobody has any suggestions? I mean, is there any mention in there about, our financial good standing right now?
No, there isn't.
Is there anything in there about, the fact that we have, 3 utilities?
I believe there
There
is.
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Is there anything in there about us being a Tree City USA for the last 23 years?
No,
No.
but I mean, for this part of it,
Yeah.
I can be as lengthy as I
Creative,
want
yeah.
to
Yeah.
until their eyes glaze over.
Mhm.
There-
We just-
It's not like a classified ad where I'm worried about working.
Right.
Sir, I think what ultimately, that's the best point of all, that someone can come in as a new city administrator and not have to worry about how he's going to pay the bills. It would seem
I won't guarantee
whoever
that.
this person is going to see and should read right on there that
Mhm.
strong, whatever adjective you'd like to use.
I don't know how you would word it, but if you could word it something also to the extent that the city is valued and demonstrated some kind of consistency as far as its people that go to work here, lots of times longevity of employees, would that be?
Yes.
At some cities, I mean, they're turning over and
Yeah.
nobody wants to go in because everybody knows it's a,
Temporary job.
and I'm not sure how to read it, word it, but I will think about that.
Okay, well, that, I will put that in.
Because
It's a legitimate,
if you're coming in and you had department heads that have been there
For a long time.
a long time, as long as they weren't bullheaded that we're gonna give you trouble,
Mm-hmm.
but we're willing to help you along.
What do you mean by that?
you want to revise your,
No, I'm sticking with it.
he has a
Okay,
point.
I'm just saying,
Where turnover, tenured, city employer tenure
Yeah.
is historically
Minimal turnover.
Well, below,
longer.
less than normal.
Yes, the tenure is above normal. So someone doesn't have to come in and go, I
Okay.
can't run the water department or the police department, whatever.
You do have a spelling error in the middle of the third paragraph,
Which? The background or the expectations?
the
so,
background.
that is either the horse or the rider has to know what's going on.
Centralia Fire Department is a city department.
Oh. Well, they report themselves well too.
They do.
Other suggestions for that part?
Well, I think when you're talking about the city employees, it would also be important to mention that the council has a lot of experience because some of these are longtime
Right.
members.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be coming in with a brand new board.
Right.
Well, hopefully not.
And a board of dissension.
Right. I think we all work pretty well together.
I could, but I will not mention the number of times we've had elections that are uncontested. You can draw a lot of inferences from it.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it is what it is. You can't hide it.
Yes, it does.
I'll work on those and like I said, I still need to go back to that article where I wrote from municipal review and see what I picked out of that. Be sure to be highlighted even though it's pretty old. One of the crucial things I need feedback from is on your expectations, whether you think that's getting towards it or not, and what you want the new person focusing on. I think that's crucial. The anticipated challenges.
Where's that at, Lynn?
The third page is the last block. Anticipated challenges for the successful applicant include.
Mm-hmm.
Some are practical, some are a little bit more.
Third page is what?
I don't have mine, can you just read those?
Yeah, I
All
can,
right.
I-
Well, there's a section besides the block of what the community's like. The third page is the start of something that
Expectations.
says that I've been here for 29 years and when the fiscal year runs and what I do and the new guy would be expected to do. And then there's a last section that says anticipated challenges for the successful applicant include support of a sanctioned Civil War reenactment in the fall of 2014. In other words, within the first month or two, this is something that the new person would be
sure,
working
hold
on.
on.
Maintenance or expansion of public services while maintaining financial reserves and minimizing any need for tax and rate increases. God, motherhood and apple pie, but it's a very important concern from everything I've heard so far. 3, helping to revitalize downtown commercial area to match parallel commercial growth along Missouri Highway 22. Downtown needs help, but overall the commercial health of the community is not bad. I mean, you don't want to not say something here that's not selling the community. 4, to continue and expand efforts to improve accessibility of the city infrastructure for the handicapped and elderly. My nemesis.
Mm-hmm. That should be in there.
5, leverage the contacts with and resources of Boone County, Ready, the Mid-Missouri Regional Planning Commission for the benefit of the community. In other words, use outside agencies as staff, assistants, whatever. And we have Creddy working internally, basically, but it's nice to have people being paid for by Boone County or by the city of Columbia. And And sometimes I'm not sure I take the maximum advantage of those agencies. Perhaps somebody new getting their feet wet will see opportunities I don't. And the last one I have listed at the moment, coordination with multiple local, regional, and state economic development agencies. There may be a little overlap among those, but are there other things that you think somebody should be including in their work priority list when they come in and hit the ground running? Because absent that, this is gonna be part of the expectation of whoever's hired, unless during interviews you come up with something else
Sure.
and give them direction.
That's a pretty big list.
Yeah. Successful completion of all of those, or even continuation of all of those, makes for a good career.
Well, the second one on the list in particular. Maintaining public services, well,
I know it keeps seeming like it's not that difficult every year, but it
I'm not,
is. And one of these days, particularly if inflation gets back to significant levels, then we'll be at a step where expenditures are rising faster than.
oh, that's my point.
Revenues.
That's how important it's, the second one is what I'm getting at.
Well, again, if there's something that you feel important about, convey it to me so it can be here.
Well, that's my
Fear of
point.
scaring somebody
Yeah.
off.
I think that's good for right now.
And other duties as assigned.
I think we'll spring that out and that's what
I don't know of anybody willing to take this job that wouldn't understand that.
Okay.
As soon as you don't state it though.
Well, I will try and do some more fine tuning of this and take what some of the guidance you gave me tonight and get them in the council packet, because after next Monday would be appropriate then to finalize anything. You know, if you have last minute suggestions by the end of next week, conveying these to the ICMA, to the Municipal League. At James's suggestion, I'll probably find Billy to go down and give the Pub School at NU something that, if they have a candidate that's gone back to school and just finishing up the masters, that
Absolutely.
might be a good candidate. And then the short ad part of it, without all of the community background, can go in the paper.
So that'll be in our next package.
That will be, revision on those 3 pages, elaboration on those 3 pages will be in your packet. Feel free to edit, but make them substantive edits so that you know exactly where you want me to go in each case.
Anything else on that topic? Sir?
I had a request from Andrea Volrath. She wants to, she would be interested in helping us make a decision, going through the applicant packets. Will be coming up, helping us, refine the ad, doing some other things. She's a resident of Ward 1 and has a master's degree.
She has a degree in international business and another one, master's in education.
Okay.
I had one hit me up too,
Who's that?
Dave Whitaker.
Okay.
He was on
He
the board that
he
was selected.
hired Glenn.
Okay.
He was on the board that, when they hired
So-
Glenn.
Yeah.
Previous
Okay.
experience.
Uh-huh.
That could be a plus.
I was thinking that I disqualified. You can tell he makes it.
You take it. So,
We don't want another revolving door candidate.
Do we need to make a motion to create the committee?
Do we need a motion for that, Lynn, or?
I suspect this is just your appointment, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that it requires a ratification from the board, but getting the feedback would be appropriate. Are there any others, and at what step? You indicated that she might want to look at the ads and comment.
I think she's open to doing that.
That part of the council packet can be conveyed to her
Okay.
before the end of the week also.
Okay. The fire chief has also expressed interest in
Okay.
What for?
Larry, I'm sure it's just for a while.
Yeah. So, Andrea lives in Ward 1.
One, yes.
Where's David live?
3.
3.
And Jenny lived for 3.
Okay.
So we're missing someone from Ward 2.
Yeah, I got somebody in mind, I'll ask him to get back with you.
Okay. Okay. I think, I don't know, I'll talk to Danny again and, you know, I don't think it'll hurt to have an extra one on there. So, I just don't wanna get like 52 people on here trying to make decisions and we'll have 52 different answers.
No, that would be.
I think, that's a good start. We want them to be at the meeting next month, or next week, to discuss any of this stuff.
Andrew was gonna try to be tonight, but she
Okay.
had something come up with MMA, so.
Okay.
Well, whether they're here or not, I certainly think that they ought to get the information so that they can review it. So
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, that's,
at some point beyond when the ads go out, we will start having closed meetings that probably are best at times other than the council meeting times.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be extra get-together,
Yes,
like,
yes,
specific to the committee.
all right.
Am I overlooking anything in this process that you want to have focus on or included or?
Do we need to have in here that, equal opportunity employer?
I think, isn't it that there? I think it's right at the bottom.
We have, I assume that's standard verbiage that we put in.
Yeah.